Welcome to the channel, Infinite Exploit, where we learn and have fun. Let's get started and Brody, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Love you guys.
So in this course, we're going to talk about JavaScript. Now, JavaScript is pretty much already installed. So this is the thing I want you to do here. I want you to go to Node.js and download this. That's going to be a runtime for JavaScript and Visual Studio Code. You can do all this in a text editor, of course, and you actually can run JavaScript from doing inspect console. And I can do this is just printing text to the screen. I can say hello from infinite. Oh, I did a I did one single quote and one double quote. Let me change that, and it prints. So essentially, JavaScript is what makes websites interactive, where you can click, drag, drop. It's a lot of devices have JavaScript enabled. So it can be devices like phones, it can be websites. I'm gonna show you a couple things you can do. So if you want to use a code editor like this one has like syntax highlighting and auto completion. So I highly recommend this one. But if you want to do it in Sublime or Notepad or WordPad, it's okay. You can do it like that. Now, 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 let me go ahead and pull this up. So once you go into Visual Studio Code, you will be prompted with a screen that looks like this. This is basically the first template. This is like your notepad, so to speak. And down here is your terminal. This is your console where you can see the output of your code when you're testing. So we're going to go ahead and do our first line, like I just showed you earlier. We're going to do console.log. I do hello from infinite. All right. And this is what you do. They recognize that it's JavaScript. I'm going to go ahead and save it to this folder. Let's see. And I'm going to call it test.js, right? Now, how do we run this in the console? So we can do node. That's that runtime that you just installed, and we can do test, and it says hello for infinite. So that's how we can run JavaScript and test out our code. And console.log is just a method used to print information to the screen. So if you're familiar with other programming languages, you might see print in Python. You might see write.line. It's a lot of different ones depending on the language that you're using. So the first thing we'll talk about is notes. So we can make a comment. So if I want to make a variable here, I can do var number, and I can do 4. So the comment is not going to run. This is an inline comment. This is the end of the line. Or we can put it in the beginning as well if we want to comment it out. If we do a multi-line comment, we'll do */. So this is a comment 2, right? And number equals 11, right? So it's no longer commented out. So we're going to talk about data types. Data types such as like Boolean, strings, numbers, objects. So a string is like text like this, right? So if we have a null data type, that means it's nothing. Undefined is something that's not defined. We haven't declared it or assigned anything. Then we have Boolean, which is like true or false. So, and we have objects. They can store key value pairs. So if I want to declare a variable, I do var. I can do my name. This is just when I'm naming it. You can name it whatever you like, as long as it has some kind of similar naming convention. So I can do Johnny, and I can change this. I can change it here, and I can say Tim. So I can also declare variables with let. So I can say equal me, and I can do const as well. So this can be used in the whole program. This is only used within the scope that you want to use it. And this is a constant variable, so it's immutable. It will never change. I cannot change it. So I can change this one. So I can do Johnny and then do my name, and I can do test here. So now we're going to talk about assigning variables. So if I so so if I so if I assign a variable, this is how I would do it. I can end all lines with a semicolon, but I don't have to. But most people recommend that you do it. So this is declaring a variable. I'm calling A. So var B equals 5. This is assigning a variable. This is equal operator. So now I can assign other things. So I can say A equals 6. So I don't have to declare A. I already declared it up there. And I can say B equals A, right? So console.log, like we talked about earlier, allows us to see things in the console. So let's go ahead and save it, and let's test it. So it's printing 6, right? Because we have 6, A equals 6, right? And if I do, for example, console.log right here, I can see that A is null because we haven't assigned it to anything, right? So let me go in and save it. See, it's undefined, right? Now I'm gonna show you another example where we can initialize a variable at the same time it is declared. So like this one, this is declaring it, and this is assigning it. Okay. So what if we did this? These are all defined variables. Now let's assign them. I can do equals 1, 2. So I just initialize all those values. Okay. So now we're going to talk about case sensitivity. So so now if we do, for example, have a variable and I say my number, and we do assignment down here, and I say my number, even though it's saying the same thing, it's not the same. It's not the same variable. You see here? Because it's case sensitive. It's not going to assign it correctly. So it'll be an error if we try to run it. We have not defined this or declared. Now, it's usually best practice to do camel case. So the first is usually lowercase, like mine. And then if we do a new word, we capitalize the first letter, like that. Okay. So that's best practice. Okay. And that way, if I assign them, if I declare them up here, then I can define them, right? And I do console.log, my number, it should print 7 to the screen when we do node. Okay. So it also can do, we can also do addition. So if I do, let's say bar, sign this, and then we do equal to 5 plus 5, I can actually console.log the sum. So it should print 10. Okay. So let's try to test this. Okay. As you see, we can also do subtraction. So let's do 5 minus 4. So that should be 1. Okay. Now, when we do multiplication, we use an asterisk like that, right? So I say product. We can also divide. So I'm going to do multiplication first, okay? And then we can do divide. See that? Now, we can also increment. So, for example, what if I kept this and I say product, because we're declared it, equals product plus 1. It's actually a quicker way we can do this. So this would be 6, right? I can actually do product plus plus, right? So if I console.log, so you can see product, it should give it 6 because we done added 1 to it. Okay. All right. We also can decrement a number. So if we do minus minus, it should give us 4. Okay. You see that? So if we wanted to write this out, let's say we didn't do the shorthand, it would look like this: product minus 1. That's what it would look like. Now, if we're using decimals, so like if I did 5.5, this would be considered like a floating point number or decimal. Okay. So I'm gonna call it for a decimal. Anything that have a decimal in it is a decimal point number. So if we wanted to, so we still can multiply these as well. So let me go ahead and, well, let me go ahead and make sure it's printing out the right thing. So my decimal. All right. And let's see here. It does that. It can also we also can do the division on that as well. And if we do the remainder, it's a percent sign, often called modulus, right? So, so my remainder, so 0.5. It's usually used to determine if a number is even or odd. Okay. So we also can do a plus equal operator. So for example, let's say down here we have a equals a plus 11, right? We can actually do a plus equals 11. We can do that. So we can do that. That's shorthand. Okay. And we can do that same thing with subtracting. And we can do it with multiplication. So for example, if we said A, we can do this, right? We can do this. That's shorthand, okay? Now let's talk about strings. So if I do my name equals, and these are called strings, just plain text, okay? And it can be single quotes or double quotes in JavaScript. Some programming languages, it's strict. You can only do a single or a double. You can't do both. So what if we want to escape? Like, what if we want the quote symbol to be in there? And I say hello. But what if I want an infinite hello? Maybe I want to have the quote inside of the string. The JavaScript does not know what to do. They think just this part is the string. So you see how this blue. Now we can do an escape character, and that means it will no longer be considered in the string. So if I do a backslash like this, it should print. It should print. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm not printing anything. All right. So yeah, that looks good to me. I just gotta print my name, and yeah, it should print a quotation too, as you see it is right there because I did escape character. It's called an escape literal. Okay. Now JavaScript knows that we want to escape this. So we can also have a string start with a single quote instead of a double quote, right? So for example, let me show you. So what if we wanted to reference a website? I'm gonna call it my site. I can use single quote and do a href. This is just referencing. This is like HTML code. There's open and close tags. I'll get a little bit more into that in another tutorial. I say infinite.com, and I can close out like that. And you see it's all still within that string. And I've used double quotes inside of those single quotes. Okay. So I'm gonna talk about some more escape characters, right? We can do, if we do a single quote, we can do this. Let me take one off. We can also do a double quote escape. We can do this type of escape. We can do a new line, right? This is a new line. Oops, if I can spell. So single quote, double quote, backslash, right? You can escape out these things. So we also can concatenate strings, with the plus operator. So basically, concatenating is like adding two things together. It's like appending it together. So for example, let's do my phrase equals I am here. No, I'm not. It should print both, right? And my phrase, it should show both, right? We can also do the plus equal operator. So what if I let's do this. My phrase plus equal. That just means I take whatever's on the end and I add it to it. So it's the same result I should get here. See? So now what if we want to find the length of a string? So this is what we can do. So for example, let's say go back to making this initializing this variable with name. We'll just call it Tom. Then I can do, let's see, my name dot length method, and let me console.log that. All right, let's see what we got. It should be three characters is in this, right? 1, 2, 3 characters. So if we want to look for a specific character, like what if we want T or O, we can get that printed. Uh, by gathering the index. See, in code, usually most programming languages, it starts with 0. So it goes 0, 1, 2, right? So if I print 0, it should print the T to the screen. Oh, it's undefined. So let me go ahead and have an index. So let's do 0. Let's see. There we go. So now, what if I say my phrase equals Tello world, right? And I do my phrase, and I want to change that first character to H, right? Let's see. Let's see, will it change it? My phrase. Let's make sure that it prints out of H, and then we can print out. Ah, it did not change it. So, so this is immutability. That just means we can't change an individual letter. So I would have to just change it altogether, right? I would have to change the entire thing. So there we go. So we're gonna go over a couple things. I'm gonna go over how HTML and JavaScript works together. So this is a boilerplate HTML template here. As you see, I have the title of the web page, Page for Learning, and that's going to be this title here on this tab. I have the text, welcome to the channel. I added this smaller text so you can see H2 tags are smaller than H3 tags, or even smaller than H4 tags are smaller as well than that. In order to get this server here, you're going to go under extensions, type in a live server, look for Ritwick Day. So shout out to them, and you'll install it, and then you will right click once you save your index.html and put the boilerplate code in there. You can right click and go open with live server, and then open up localhost on port 5500. So if I save this, right, if I control save and I refresh, you see that smaller text there. It's smaller than this. Control S. Now, if we wanted to reference our JavaScript and our HTML, we use script tags, okay? So if I wanted to create, for example, console.log, separate file, right? I would name this index.js, and that's because that's what I named the file in the in my HTML document. So if I go back, you can see here. I mean, not index, script. I need to name it script.js. So I'm going to rename to script.js. All right. And the way we see this is we can right click, inspect, console. Let me make sure I saved it. Script.js. Refresh. And you see it says separate file here. So that's how HTML can pull it separately. If I wanted to do it all inside of my file, I could do a script tag like this, and I could do console.log inside the HTML. So this is just a test, so you can differentiate which one is which. So let me do that, and it should have this one as well. Just refresh. It's refreshing. It's loading. Separate file right here. Oh, okay. So for some reason it put another method there. Let me resave it. Okay, so you see this is inside the HTML, and this is separate. So you can write your code inside your HTML. It's best practice to at least have your script tag here. And the reason why is because when it renders the this is usually your content. So the browser parses the file from top to bottom. So it can get busy and it won't render the content of the page if you have your script tags all the way up here and it's trying to do a lot of logic. Okay. So let's talk about static types. So for example, let's go here. If I do string name Tom, what if I did this, right? And what if I do let name equal Tom? This is dynamic, so this can change, right? This can change. So let me save this. So another thing that we can do is we can use the type of method to define what type of variable that we're dealing with. So if I do, for example, so I took my inline script out. So now we're going to talk about reference types. So that's like objects, arrays, and functions. So now when dealing with multiple related variables, we can put these variables inside of an object. So for example, let name equals John and let age equal 19. So instead of two variables, so I have age and I have the name variable, instead I could reference two variables with one object. So let me tell you how that works, right? Now I can have this as a constant if I don't want to change it, right? I can do constant name, I'm sorry, if I don't want to change it. But just for demonstration purposes, we'll keep it at let. So this is how we'll do it. We would do let person. So this will be our object we're creating, equals, open and close curly brackets. Inside there, we're going to need to add a key value pair. So I would do name, now I do colon, now I do John, comma, sorry, it's trying to autocomplete there. And then I do age, colon, 19. Right, and now we should be able to log this to the screen. So if I do console.log and I do person, it should be able to log this to the screen. So I'm gonna do node script.js. Okay, let me see. Probably because I didn't have my. Let's see what we got here. So as you see here, we have our object, and if I run it in Node, it comes up like right here as well. Okay, so how do we access the name property? So a couple ways we can do it. We can use dot notation. So if we want to access separate information, we can do dot notation. So I can do person dot name, as you can see there, and it should pull John. So I'm gonna save it, and it pulled John inside of here. And same thing I can test here. It pulled John. Or we can use bracket notation. So bracket notation is another way we can do it. We can do, for example, person open and close square brackets name equals John. Let's save it that way. So that's another way we can do it, right? So now let's talk about arrays. So if we want to do an array, I can do let my colors equal, and this is usually when we want to store a bunch of similar values, and instead of having just one type of piece of data in a variable, we can assign many types. So I do colors green, and let's do white, and index start at 0. So this will be the first index 0, and then this will be 1. So if I want to add a third color, I can do my colors, and I can do 2. That'll create a third index, and I want to make it red. But let me print it out without having this line right quick, so that way you can see. Console.log, my colors. Let's save it. And you see the array saying green and white, and I can run it with Node as well, green and white. So if I go up here and I do my colors, and I do 2, and I want to add, let's say red, and save it, you see it's here, and I can run it in Node as well. So that's pretty much how arrays work. Now we also can access color by its index. So like I mentioned, since this is the first index, what open and close square bracket, what number would we use to access this element? It'll be 0, right? So if I save it, it's pulling green, right? And if I do here, it's pulling green. So now we're going to talk about functions. So a function is a set of instructions. Well, it's pretty much all code is a set of instructions, but usually it performs a certain task or it calculates a value. So we'll use a function to declare, we'll use the word function to declare function. So I'll do it like this function, and I want to greet, so I do my greet. We usually do the naming convention based off of what the function is going to be designed to do. So I'll do console.log, I'll say hello there. All right, and I'll save it. And as you see, nothing's happening. Why is it not printing to the screen? Because we got to call the function, and we call the function by doing the name of the function, open and close parentheses. So if I save it now, it say hello there. If I run it here, hello there. Okay, and we can call this function as many times as we like. So I can do it 1, 2, 3, save it, right, and it's going to call it all those times. Now, how can we pass parameters? Like, say name is the input for the function. So this is what I can do. I can put name up here, right, and I can do hello there, and I can do plus. We'll take hello there off because we're just saying the name. I do plus. That's concatenating. That's adding two types of data together. So I do name, right? And then now I can put different names in this. So I can say Tom, Billy, John, Sally, right? Save this and say hello, right? It's printing this information that we're getting it. So what if we want to add multiple parameters? So I can do last name as well. I could do parentheses, do another variable here, pass another parameter called last name. Then I can actually do plus, do this, give a little space, last name. And now when we're calling these functions, I can make it pass the first and last name, right? So if I do James, Jones, Walker, and Hunter. All right, so it's really doing that. If I want a little space between it, I could have did this like that, put a little space between here and there. If I want a space right here, I could do this too, to kind of separate it, right? So it can look a little neater there. Now let's talk about the return statement. So for example, what if we create a function that the cube number? I can do function cube, and I can it's going to take a parameter. I have it take number, and I want it to return number times number times number. Okay, that's what I wanted to return. Let me go ahead and save this. All right, so let number cube. I want a cube 4, and I want a console.log the number. So it should cube this. 64 is what it gives me, right? So if I do node 64. Now, instead of doing it like this, I can actually take this out and put it all on one line. I can actually go console log cube. That way it can return this value 4, right? Let me take off a parenthesis, and it should work. So it should give me 64 again. As you see there, it works. Now, this is the thing when it comes to return statement. If I put, for example, console.log print me, it's not going to print this, right? Because it breaks out of the function when it sees that return statement, right? So that's usually how you'll do the return, use the return keyword. Now let's talk about using type of. So for example, if I put in type of, now let's say I do cube, it's letting me know that's a function, right? So if I do, let's declare some variables here. Let's do let name equal Mike, and save it. And what if we do type of and want to say name? It's a string. It's letting me know that this is a string, right? What if I do let age equal 18, right? And I do type of, and I want to see what type of variable is the age. It's saying that's a string, and the reason why is because I got it in quotation marks. If I take the quotation marks off, it's going to tell me that it's a number, right? It's a number, right? What if I do let age? I just declare it. It's undefined, right? What if I do let age? See if I can save it that way. Yeah, it's undefined. I haven't not declared anything there, right? So So that's how functions work, and that's how looking at the type of method. Now talk about DOM manipulation. That way we can modify and change parts of the website. So we're gonna go over that. So basically, the DOM is a document object model. It's used to manipulate content, style, and structure. It's one of the most useful tools in JavaScript. So let's go back to our HTML code here, right? So in DOM manipulation, go over a couple things about DOM. So we can get the element by using the get element by ID method. That's one way we can get elements with DOM. We also can get it by class name, right? We also can get it by tag name. And I'll talk about these here in a moment and show you how they work. We also can get it by query selector. Yep, I'm gonna show you how these work here in a moment. So that way you'll know. So when we use this, we'll go here and then we'll do open and close parentheses and we're gonna grab the ID name, right? So for example, let me show you here in HTML. So what if I have my H1 element and I want to give it an ID main header, right? What if I wanted to do that? And if I wanted to call that ID, I can select this by putting main header in here. This way it knows what I'm looking for. And I can console.log. Let me put it into an element first. Let me go ahead and put it into a variable. I'm gonna make it a constant variable and I'm gonna call it the title. And I can console.log the title. And it should pull that information for me, right? Let me run it. So let me make sure I named it right. Main.shaders. Let me save it here. Okay, so it's saved there. Let me rerun it. So we got get element by ID. Okay, so let's see what I did. Yeah, I need to do document property. All right, all right. So that looks good. Let me try it again. Get element by ID. Got the header. Console log title. Okay. Let me go back over here. Save this. And you see that the DOM is pulling this H1 element, right? You see that? It's pulling that. So the DOM can also change CSS properties. So for example, let's say we want to use a style. So this is referencing a style.css file. We don't have one here. So I could create a separate one, but I'm going to show you how to use this CSS inline, right? I'm going to show you how to use that inline. So right now you don't see us. So if we want, DOM can also modify CSS. So right now we don't have any CSS file here, right? So I can do my style inline. And what I mean by that is I can use a style tag. So I can do, for example, an open and close style tag, right? And I can modify. So I can modify. So for example, let's say H2, I do open and close curly bracket. Let's say I want to do background color is red. What if I want to do that, right? It's gonna make the background color red. So CSS gives it color, right? But I can change that with the DOM, with DOM manipulation. So now I want to talk about for loops really quick. So for loop goes through an iteration. Usually you'll have it looping through an array of items. So let me give you an example. You'll use the for keyword and you'll give it some information. So I'm gonna say let, and I'm gonna do a variable. Index is what I'm gonna name it. I'm gonna have it initialized, set it to 0. I'm gonna say index if it's less than 10, and I'm gonna also do index plus plus, and that's just incrementing this index by 1. So it adds 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a constant. So I'm gonna do const, and I'm gonna call it element, and I'm gonna assign it the index. And now, so what I'm gonna do Got to make sure I put this within my open and close curly brackets, since this will be in here. And I'm going to console.log, so I'm going to print that index to the screen. So it should print these numbers to the screen here. So it goes, as you see, it goes, I'm going to run it this way as well. It's print 0 through 9, right? Now, what if we had a list, like let's say we had an array of elements, right? For example, let's say what if we have had an array? So what if we do let my array equals open and close brackets here. I'm gonna say white, red. These are just different random colors, blue, and you can put whatever you want in your array. All right, and I'm going to say I'm calling my array. Let's see what it prints when we go through this one. Okay, let's check this one. And let's go here. Still print the same thing. Sometimes we want to repeat. Sometimes we want to repeat information. So what if I say hello world like 5 times? I could do console.log hello world, right? Right. What if I want to do that? Now I could do this and just have it 5 times. So let's do a for loop. So we'll do for. This is going to be an initial expression. It's going to be the first thing, right? And I'm going to do let I equal 0. This is going to be short for index. And the second part is the condition. So we're going to compare I with something else. So it's going to determine if it's true or not. So I'm going to say I is less than 5. As long as it's less than 5, it'll execute. So, all right. And I'm going to also do increment. So a lot of times you have I plus plus. That just means it's going to add 1 to it. All right. And now I'm going to do a statement, right? And I'm going to put that inside the open and close curly brackets. All right. So if I do console.log hello world, it should run it 5 times. All right. So let's save it and run it. As you see, it works here. So that's just a simple example for loop. Okay, so that's a good example. But what if we want to loop through an array of names? So for example, let's go ahead and create an array. So I'll make it a constant, and I'm gonna say is names equal, and I'll say John, Jackie, Jill, and Joe. What if we did that? So let me go ahead and drop that down again. So this is what I can do. So I can do for let I equal 0. If I could do I in names dot length, so that way the length of the names is what it's going to loop through. So now I want to print each name in the array. So I do names and I use our index. So let me save it. Let's see what we got here. So it prints John, Jackie, Jill, and Joe, right? Now we can do a for of loop to do it as well. So we want to, let's say, comment this out. You remember how we did comments? I can go boom, boom. I can do for. Well, I still wanted to find my variable here, my array variable. So I'm gonna do for names, right? I'm gonna do a normal for loop. So right. So that's what I can do here. Go ahead and save this and rerun it. You see it still goes through the iterations. Now I technically can put all of this in one line of code, right? I could do it like this, and it'll still print. So if I save it and go, you see it's still printing. So let's look at while loops. So it's just gonna go through an iteration as long as something is true. So let's let I equal 0, and let's say while I is less than 10, on a console dot log I, right? And then I'm gonna increment I by 1 each time. So let's print that out. So it prints 0 to 9. So what if we did this at an if statement? If I is equal to 5, then we want to break. Let's see what we got, right? So it stops it before it reaches 5. So that's a quick overview of while loops as well. Thank you.